The Marvel Universe is filled with beings of immense power, champions, monsters, gods. But if you were to ask these creatures how they believe the universe will end, with a heavy heart, they would tell you the exact same thing. Thanos wins.
Carbon scoring here. Looks like you boys have seen a lot of action.
Welcome back to Carbon Scoring. First, we're going to take a deep dive into the Thanos Wins comic storyline. Then we're going to check out the action figures that came from it. Our tale begins with a bored Thanos, having recently defeated the Chitauri homeworld, sitting on his newly conquered throne, when the sky begins to rain blood, and an unexpected visitor arrives. This insane traveler from the future with a flaming head and a cosmic cycle asks Thanos to join him. He declines. So the writer wraps Thanos in his hellspawn chains, and using a broken shard of the Time Stone, away they go, into the future. The writer drags his prey to his master and presents his prize, which leads Thanos to come face to face with Thanos. We open our next issue with a brief retelling of Thanos' life story, from his birth to his conquest, and as well to his failures, and finally to his ultimate victory, leaving him alone as the King of Ash for millions of years. As interesting as the story is, Thanos bores of this retelling and belts his future self into next week. He's about to decapitate the writer when the king stops him and asks for his help in winning back the love of Lady Death herself. In his attempt to win the heart of Lady Death, King Thanos has killed nearly every being in the universe save one, his final foe, and he needs his younger self to help him defeat the Fallen One, who is on the way. As the king leaves to prepare for this final battle, the writer asks Thanos if he wants to help him come feed the dog, who just happens to be the Incredible Hulk. But that's not our last surprise for the day. Finally, the writer reveals his true identity. He's Frank Castle, the Punisher from our modern Earth. Turns out, as the final battle for Earth waged on, old Frank stood beside Earth's mightiest heroes, and fell with them as well. But with his dying thought, he made a deal with the devil, and he became the Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance. Unfortunately, there wasn't much to avenge in a planet devoid of life. But as luck would have it, a certain devourer of worlds came to Earth seeking help. And since Frank was the only one around, he became Ghost Rider, Herald of Galactus, a job he dutifully served for centuries. Together, Galactus and the Rider made their final stand against Thanos, and lost. So Frank made one final deal, becoming the Rider, the black right hand of Mad King Thanos. Thus, Frank Castle, the mortal formerly known as the Punisher, has spent the past several million years alongside Thanos. Meanwhile, as the Thanos twins catch up on the lost millennium, their enemy finally arrives, and the king reveals that the Fallen One is not a being, it is a title, one that is currently held by the Silver Surfer, who brought an annihilation wave with him. As the battle rages on, King Thanos, becoming impatient for victory, screams to the Surfer, "What took you so long?" To which the Surfer replies, he wasn't waiting, he was working on becoming worthy. Following Thanos' final victory, the Silver Surfer spent the ensuing millennium working on becoming worthy, on being able to lift Thor's hammer. Now he wields Mjolnir and commands the thunder, to devastating effect. Nice knowing you, Frank. But Thanos still has a trick up his sleeve. His puppy, the rampaging Hulk. Yet strength alone is not enough. The Surfer tames the Hulk and saves his old friend. Yet Thanos' treachery knows no bounds. He understands what it takes to defeat a cosmic being with the power of the Norse gods. So King Thanos runs the Surfer through with Surtur's own blade, the one weapon in the universe said to initiate Ragnarok and the fall of the gods, then cleaved the hammer from the Surfer's hand, which left the final outcome inevitable. So as the beings known as Thanos looked out over the devastation they had caused, they saw her coming. Lady Death, dressed for a wedding. At the end of everything, King Thanos sees his final prize, that which he has spent eternity striving for. Yet, she pauses. With all life gone from the universe, what more could she want from Thanos? Nothing, except the death of Thanos himself. You see, King Thanos didn't bring his younger self forward in time to defeat the Surfer. He needed him for the ultimate prize, and no one kills Thanos but Thanos. The battle rages, to Lady Death's delight, with the elder no match for the younger. But as his final breaths leave his body, the king begs of himself to finish the deal. Yet Thanos pauses, for kings do not beg. His decision is made. Grabbing the shard of the Time Stone, Thanos exits, returning to our time, vowing to spend as long as it takes to ensure that he never becomes the king he sees before him. Finally alone with his queen, King Thanos realizes Lady Death was never dressed for a wedding, but for his own funeral. As he feels himself slipping away, he asks how was the younger able to erase him? She answers as we always feared she would, simply, that Thanos wins. Whoa, that's a pretty epic comic. Before we talk about the figures, if you're into this kind of content where we mix comic history and action figures, tell us about it in the comments, and hit subscribe so you can stay on this crazy ride with us. Let's start our review of the action figures with the star of the show himself, Thanos. Hasbro recently released this comic-accurate version of Thanos as a deluxe figure exclusive to Target, which typically means it's impossible to get, but the distribution on this one seems pretty good. He's got vibrant colors and comes with Infinity Gauntlet hands as well. But best of all, he also came with an alternate head for King Thanos. It was this head sculpt that inspired the video, and digging into the comic story only reinforced how intense and badass this character was. The detail in the wrinkles, right down to that braided beard, are the kind of things that separate the great from the exceptional in action figures. Speaking of exceptional, the true breakout star of this storyline was none other than the Cosmic Ghost Rider. Hasbro outdid themselves with this deluxe offering, including as much detail in the figure as in his ride. His Hellspawn chain boasts a translucent sculpt that fades from red to yellow. But Frank Castle would never be without his guns, and the two blasters included fit into the saddles on his bike. That is when he's not using them to vaporize anything in his path. It is easy to see why this figure made everyone's top 10 list for 2020. While we haven't gotten a Hulk figure yet specifically from this storyline, this 2008 offering still fits the bill nicely. Finally, we have the Fallen One, Silver Surfer Black. The figure is a 2021 Walgreens exclusive, but like Thanos, he's been relatively easy to find. Just as in the comic, he wields Mjolnir, and I borrowed one from a Diamond Select Thor to give him this action shot. Herald of Galactus, Surfer of the Spaceways, Wielder of the Power Cosmic, or worthy of the Hammer Mjolnir, whatever you call him, he's a phenomenal action figure. So that's our deep dive into the comic and action figure history of Thanos Wins. Again, tell us what you think, and if you want more in-depth looks at specific comic storylines and the figures inspired from them. And as always, subscribe so you won't miss any of the action from Carbon Scoring.